What would you do if the people you trusted most tore you apart in a language they thought you couldn't understand? I sat at the polished oak table, the clink of wine glasses and forced laughter filling the air. My fiancé, Lucas, was beside me, his hand resting lightly on mine under the table, a quiet anchor in the storm I could feel brewing. Across from us, his parents, her and Frau Weber, sat with their chins tilted upward, their smiles as crisp as their tailored clothes. It was our first dinner together since Lucas proposed, a chance to bond before the wedding. The Webers' grand dining room and their Munich home gleamed with old money crystal chandeliers, heavy drapes, and a portrait of some stern ancestor glaring down at me. I, an American with no lineage to boast, felt like an intruder from the moment I stepped inside. The evening started cordially enough. Lucas translated their rapid-fire German pleasantries, his voice warm as he bridged the gap between us. I smiled, nodded, and offered my carefully rehearsed Guten Abend and Danke schön. My German was rudimentary at bester, so they thought. What they didn't know was I'd spent the last 2 years secretly studying the language, poring over textbooks and audio lessons late into the night. I wanted to surprise Lucas, to show him I could belong in his world. But tonight, I held my tongue, letting them assume I was clueless. It felt safer that way. As the meal progressed, the conversation shifted. Lucas excused himself to help his sister, Anna, in the kitchen, leaving me alone with his parents. The air grew heavier, their smiles tightening. Frau Weber leaned toward her husband, her voice low but sharp, and began speaking in German. I caught fragments at first, words like Amerikanerin and nicht passend. My heart sank, but I kept my face neutral, stirring my soup as if I hadn't a care in the world. Then Herr Weber joined in, his tone dripping with disdain. Sie ist nicht gut genug für Lukas, hey Said. She's not good enough for Lucas. I froze, my spoon hovering midair. Frau Weber nodded, her eyes flicking toward me with a pitying glance. Eine einfache Lehrerin, chez mon Ort. A simple teacher. Was kann sie schon bieten? Keine Kultur, kein Status. What can she offer? No culture, no status. Each word was a blade, slicing through the fragile confidence I'd built. They didn't know I understood every syllable. They thought they were safe, cloaked in a language they assumed was foreign to me. I could have spoken up, could have defended myself right then, but something held me back. Maybe it was the weight of their judgment, or maybe it was the quiet power of knowing something they didn't. So I waited. The insults grew bolder. Herr Weber scoffed, saying I'd probably drag Lucas down with my provincial ways. Frau Weber laughed a cold, cutting sound and added that my accent was charming in a peasant sort of way. My cheeks burned, but I kept my eyes on my plate, forcing a smile whenever they glanced my way. Inside, I was a storm of hurt and anger, but I clung to my silence like a lifeline. I wanted to prove them wrong, not with the outburst, but with something sharper. Lucas returned, oblivious to the venom that had just spilled across the table. The conversation shifted back to pleasantries, but the damage was done. I felt like a ghost, present but unseen, my worth reduced to their whispered critiques. Then, Anna, Lucas's younger sister, joined us, her face bright with a nervous energy. She was different from her parents' warmer, less guarded. She'd always been kind to me, but tonight, she seemed distracted, her eyes darting between her parents and me. I wondered if she'd overheard their words, if she felt the same but was too polite to say it. Dinner dragged on, and I played my part, the polite, clueless American fiancé. But as dessert was served rich Black Forest cake that tasted like ash in my mouth, Anna did something unexpected. She leaned toward me, her voice soft but deliberate, and spoke in English. "You're so patient with them," she said, her eyes searching mine. "I'd lose it if I were you." Her words caught me off guard. Did she know? Had she heard her parents' cruel remarks? Before I could respond, she added, I think you're perfect for Lucas. Don't let them make you feel otherwise. Her kindness was a lifeline, pulling me back from the edge of despair. I squeezed her hand under the table, gratitude swelling in my chest. Anna's words were a twist I hadn't seen, coming a reminder that not everyone in this family saw me as lesser. She was an ally, and that small act of defiance against her parents' judgment gave me the courage I needed for what came next. As the evening wound down, Herr Weber raised his glass for a toast. To family, he said in English, his eyes locking onto mine with a patronizing smile. And to those who join it, may they rise to the occasion. It was a challenge, thinly veiled as a blessing. My pulse quickened. This was my moment. I stood, my chair scraping softly against the floor. All eyes turned to me, and for the first time that night, I felt the weight of their attention not as judgment, but as opportunity. I took a deep breath and began to speak in perfect German. Ich danke Ihnen für Ihre Gastfreundschaft. Isait, my voice steady and clear. Thank you for your hospitality. The room went silent, forks pausing midair. Herr Weber's glass trembled slightly in his hand. Frau Weber's smile froze, her eyes widening in shock. Ich habe jedes Wort verstanden, das Sie heute Abend gesagt haben. Ich continued my Gauze moving between them. I understood every word you said tonight. The air seemed to thicken, the chandelier's light casting harsh shadows across their stunned faces. Sie denken, ich sei nicht gut genug für Lukas, dass ich keine Kultur oder Status habe. Aber wissen Sie, was ich habe? Liebe, Respekt und die Fähigkeit, hart zu arbeiten, zu lernen und mich anzupassen etwas, das Sie vielleicht unterschätzen. You think I'm not good enough for Lucas, that I have no culture or status. But do you know what I do have? Love, respect, and the ability to work hard to learn and adapt something you might underestimate. Lucas stared at me, his mouth slightly open, a mix of pride and disbelief in his eyes. Anna's lips curved into a quiet smile, her earlier words now making sense. She'd known I was holding back, and she'd given me the push I needed. Herr Weber cleared his throat, his face reddening, while Frau Weber stammered, We didn't mean, but I cut her off gently. Ich will nicht Ihre Zustimmung, Isait. I don't want your approval. Ich will nur, dass Sie mich respektieren, wie ich Lukas respektiere. Und wenn Sie das nicht können, dann ist das Ihr Verlust. I only want you to respect me, as I respect Lucas. And if you can't do that, that's your loss. I sat down, my heart pounding, but my spirit lighter than it had been all night. The room remained quiet for a long moment, the weight of my words settling over the table. Lucas reached for my hand, his grip tighter than before, his eyes shining with admiration. Anna raised her glass, breaking the silence with a soft, to respect. Her and Frau Weber said nothing more that night, their earlier confidence replaced by a humbling stillness. I didn't need their approval to know my worth, but I made sure they'd never underestimate me again. Sometimes, silence is the loudest weapon until the moment you choose to speak.